Well, I would just say Karma is a beautiful beach. We are back to square one. And I like the question about excess
After
capacity.
you boldly announced that Dumsor was over, and in fact, Dumsor was over, you say we are back to square one. Is that what you mean?
Yes, precisely because there is also this mistake, especially from the media or in the media space, as if energy is static. Energy is dynamic. Demand grows. The composition of even the demand changes. Then the financing. So the solution you had yesterday will no longer be tenable tomorrow because the external environment, the operating environment would have changed. For example, prior to 2015, the real challenge, the major challenge was capacity, generating capacity was a challenge. Of course, there was the finance, the fuel. Prior to 2015 or 2016, we did not have domestic gas. And so we're so dependent on Nigeria and gas. And therefore, our fuel was gas and liquid, light crude oil. Those were the dominant fuels. Today, light crude oil is almost no longer in the equation. And so we would have solved the problem in 2015. But if you do not sustain, if you do not maintain, if you do not update your methodologies, in 2024, you could have a similar problem. So that will not negate the fact that at one point, the problem was solved. My major challenge now, Ben was talking about plants going down for maintenance. It is for this specific reason that we have a reserve margin. Do we have the adequate reserve margin? If we had the adequate reserve margin, 1 or 2 plants down for maintenance will not create the situation we are in. But our major challenge today is money to buy fuel. If we had all the existing plants running, we would be eating into our reserve margin, but we could maintain some amount of consistency on lights being on. We don't have the money. And we don't have the money. Unfortunately, in the power sector, we have allowed political partisanship. We've allowed propaganda to replace economics, to replace management, and to replace technical competence.
What do you mean by that?
For example, you raised the question of excess capacity. Let me give you 2 quick examples. On the 14th, 2 days ago, our peak demand off-peak was 2,830 megawatts. Our forecast off-peak was 3,169 megawatts. ECG had to share 300 megawatts off-peak. Then peak, the demand was 3,744 megawatts. The peak capacity availability was 3,070 megawatts. ECG had to shed 650 megawatts. But this is not the whole story. We are also shedding on average 150 to 200 megawatts on exports. When you have a weak currency, when you are unable to collect what you have sold, the export source becomes a major and critical source of revenue because it's paid in Forex. You use that to buy the equipment you need for your maintenance, etc. When you are also shedding that, we are only thinking of what ECG shares, but we are also shedding, especially sales to CEB. We are shedding exports. So the situation is really bigger than we see. VRA's finances today have been crippled by lack of sufficient export.
What does it mean we are shedding exports?
We are contracted to sell power.
Correct.
To Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Burkina.
They have money to buy. We are not ready to sell.
And they pay us on time in hard currency. We are unable to supply the contracted quantities.
Why?
Because we don't have enough money to buy fuel, to generate and sell to them. And we are losing forex. Remember, under Professor Mills Mahama, one of the objectives in 2009 was to make Ghana a major power exporter. That was the vision. And when the West African power pool arrangement came in, one of our objectives was to take advantage of that and make Ghana. And we are probably the best country, if you look at geography, to supply West Africa. We sit bang in the middle of West Africa. We can export to the left, we can export to the south, we can export north. This is an opportunity we've not been able to utilize because of our own internal challenges.
What do we do where we are now?
We will first of all have to look at two things. ECG will have to look at its own internal cost control, not just ECG, all across board, ECG, NEDCO, GRIDCO, and VRA. Cost management has never been a priority for us in the public space. I'm the ranking member on state enterprises. And across our SOEs, cost control, decisions are more procurement-led. So we will have to change the dynamics.
There's waste.
In plain English, yes, a lot of waste.
How is it manifested in ECG and the other related
if you are not collecting, you buy power and sell. What you take is only about 70% of what you purchased. We have technical losses that we attempted to redress by the injection of the about 500 million from the compact. Unfortunately, we messed up with that implementation and we lost that. Again, arising out of greed. And I say this on record. If we were not greedy, the original compact had foreign partners in the concession with about 20% get indigenous equity in the concession. There's a change in government. Certain another government comes, no, Ghanaians must have 51%, and foreigners who were bringing in the capital, who were bringing in the know-how, who were bringing in the skill set, the new mindset should have 49. It automatically leads to loss of boardroom control. So all the big boys pulled out. If we're not greedy, if we had stayed with that 20% and allowed the big boys to come in with investment, apart from the 500 million that we're going to get from the compact, they were also contracted to bring in other investment. We have been pumping about $1 billion into the distribution center. Our biggest challenge now is underinvestment. ECG is claiming a number of transformers are outdated, they are old, they need to be replaced. How do you replace that when you don't have the cash flow? You need investment. And we establish ECG as a company. This is so critical. Most people ignore that.
You're saying they are collecting about 70% of what?
Of what they sell.
What they sell.
Yes.
What can they do when, as you look at it, only health facilities cumulatively are owing in excess of 260 million Ghana cedis?
There is a lot they can do, but that is what is known. The bigger challenge today is the plain thievery, what we cannot even account. If you can account for the fact that, look, this person owes you, that is one. At least in your books, you know this is revenue. It's just that it has not translated into cash flow. But there is technical inefficiency what we call technical losses. Then there is plain commercial losses, plain thievery.
And you guys say the technical losses amount to about how much? 30%.
Technical and commercial combined, about
30%.
30%. Yes, close to 30%. To cure the technical losses, the major input is going to be investment. We have to inject capital.
What's the standard allowable losses?
Depending on the jurisdiction.
30% not too much?
You should not even be about 8%.
Yes, within 8, 14.
Depending on the jurisdiction, the more developed the system.
So there are a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of work to be done there. But let's not also forget, we are also suffering from the effects of the poor macroeconomic management. Let's also not forget, the payables of the power sector are dollar denominated. The receivables are CD denominated. So when the CD today, the parallel market 13.6, the official market 13.1 CDs to the dollar. So when the CD deteriorates that much, the amount of CDs you now need to collect to pay for your fuel is, and then to pay your IPPs increases hugely. So if we had a stable currency, planning becomes easier. Payment in terms of CD terms also becomes easier.
Okay.